Thanks, Mike. Game week, obviously excited about opening up the 2014 season, and we get an opportunity to play at home, which is equally exciting for our football team. It is certainly a football team in Rice that we have a great deal of respect for. I do for David Bailiff. He's done a great job, worked his way up through the ranks like I have as well, and now is over the last couple of years has done some things at Rice that nobody's done in many, many years. 10-4 last year, as you know, and Conference USA champs. Took them to a bowl game. This team knows how to win. Well-coached football team, all phases, offense, defense, special teams. Has some very good football players, too. I think everybody's heard of Jordan Taylor, the wide receiver. Outstanding wide receiver. I think one of the better ones that we'll see during the year. Has the ability to do a little bit of everything. Very good route runner. We've evaluated him. We really think he's a fine player. Dreyfus Jackson played a little bit for him, but now you've got a multi-dimensional quarterback who can run it, throw it. He'll be difficult to defend, and what is an offense that features a run game with the quarterback central to it. So, those two guys in particular, we're going to cause us some problems, obviously. Defensively, Christian Covington, I think he's one of the better inside guys. Very active, physical. Just watching him against, some not all pros, but some All-Americans at Texas A&M. And what he did when he played against Texas A&M. Christian Covington can play against the very, very best in the country. Very disruptive, inside guy, can pass rush, very good against the run. Again, a guy that we have a great deal of respect for and will be considered one of the better players that we play against all year. Baker and Callahan in the secondary, veteran guys. Callahan's got a lot of picks. They like to play some man coverage on the outside. He's got a lot of experience, a lot of snaps. An aggressive defense, one that finished in the top 30, 40 in the country last year. So, again, a well-coached football team. Played Texas A&M, real tough. Great win against Marshall late in the year. Shows you the kind of football team that they have. They got a lot of confidence coming in here. And again, 10-win football team. It's going to be a good test for us as an opener. So with that, I'll open up to questions.
Coach, do you notice a change in excitement in your players when game week rolls around?
Well, there's a change in their focus. I will tell you that. The last 3 practices, you're really trying to keep their attention to detail because they're starting to wander a little bit in a sense that they know school's starting and it's getting closer to game week. Then when you get into game week preparation, yesterday's practice was a lot different than the last 2 or 3 practices because now it is, focusing on an opponent in Rice. So certainly a different sense in practice.
Have you named captains yet?
We have not. We're in that process. We probably would have that wrapped up here in the next 24 hours.
And I see you guys have decided to go back to singing the alma mater after every game. I think something the players may have brought to you. Could you just kind of take me through how that kind of came back?
Players didn't bring it to me. No. I brought it to the players just like I brought it to the players last year. We have a unity council. I addressed it to our players last year at the unity council. We decided as a team that that's not what we wanted to do. This year we brought it back up to the unity council and they voted that that's something that they wanted to do. So I'm all for what my team wants to do and we'll make that work.
Coach, can you talk about the kind of training camp Isaac Rochelle had and what you expect from him moving forward?
I think evolving, learning, his position. He's somebody that's put on a lot of weight, stronger, more physical. I think he's really adapting to what his skill set and his strength is. So evolving in a sense that here's who you are, here's who you're turning into as a football player. Now use these strengths to your advantage. So I think capturing that knowledge in the defensive structure that we're running is really what's happened over the last probably 3 weeks.
And just looking at the release, I'm not sure that you sign off on the depth chart, but it has Romeo starting over Andrew Trombetti. Did he overtake Andrew again, or
No, I think that's, I think you'll see Trombetti, playing there. Again, I didn't sign off on that. Mike is, he's our two-deep expert. He decides who starts for us at Notre Dame. He decided on the quarterback position as well. So future questions you can just bring up to Mike.
From the time that you named Everett the starter and so forth, what have you seen from him in his play in practice? What have you seen from him in terms of trying to take ownership of the team?
Well, I think he's been consistent. I think he's been, as a quarterback, much more decisive. And when I refer to decisive in terms of, a quarterback has to believe what he sees and react accordingly. I think there's still room for growth there in that position, but consistency, decisiveness, those are good words to use with the quarterback's growth. I think I've seen that. As a leader, I think I could probably use the same thing relative to consistency. He's consistently been that vocal leader on the offensive side of the ball. He's consistently been very active in our Unity Council in terms of suggestions and asking questions and really integral to what we're doing offensively, both on and off the field. He's been engaging and taking what you would consider that next step of leadership by his engagement. So that's what I've seen over the last 3-4 weeks.
Any change in status on our timetable with Grace and Hunter and anybody new to the list that wouldn't be available for Rice?
No, I think we're making the kind of progress that we were hoped for with Jared Grace. I think it's a little better every day. He won't be ready for Rice. Maybe I'm a little bit too optimistic, but I think Torrey Hunter's ahead of progress, in terms of where we thought he would be. I think we're moving him on Monday. He was on our zero gravity machine, which takes a lot of the, he's able to run at probably 20-30% of his body weight on our treadmill, which is a really good sign. So I think he's ahead of schedule for what we thought. So maybe he runs next week and see where we are in Purdue week. But I'd say he's probably ahead of schedule.
Brian, up here, I guess if there's not a clear captain or captains, would you consider going to game by game like you did in 2020?
I would. Yeah, certainly. I think, and you got to look at this, for me, it's a very positive situation. I've got a great Unity Council that is representative of our freshmen, redshirt freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors. And it's a very active group, the most active group that I've had since I've been here at Notre Dame. I mean, calling meetings, soliciting input from the players. Very, very active group that is right now very important to our group. I have a small senior class. I have 17 redshirt juniors, the largest class that we've ever had here in terms of numbers. So, we have a lot of underclassmen that can be leaders that are sophomores. So we have a lot of leaders out there. So we're taking our time and making sure that we're going to get the right guys out there, and game day captains could be, part of that process. It's not to say that we may not have one or two captains and game day captains. That's an option too.
Is part of that just the dynamics that not all of them, but a lot of your best players, talent-wise, are just younger. Somebody like a Jalen Smith might not be ready to be a full-on captain for 13 games.
That's one. That's one of those dynamics. Maybe some captains that are juniors may not be captains as seniors. That's another dynamic. So there's a lot of different variables here. I know this, that I've got a really good leadership group within this football team. We're not devoid of leaders because we haven't named captains on Tuesday of game week. I want to be very careful that we select the right people and make sure that our voice is being heard across the group. Now, again, this is a limited democracy, and our players know that. But I want to make sure that we're representing everybody across the board with our football players.
Russell, Williams, Daniels, Moore out for this weekend?
Yes.
And have you gotten any update on?
I have not. I have not. Zero.
At what point do you seek an update out now that the season is rolling and this is a fairly sizable impact on your roster?
Probably after this week. I figure with school starting on Tuesday, we'll probably, I'm sure Jack will inform me once he gets information. He's pretty good at getting right back with me. So it's not something where I need to feel like I got to pick up the phone if there's a disconnect with information. Jack Swarbrick is great with immediately getting me information that is needed, relative to making, decisions for our football team.
Just lastly, big picture, I'm sure you've had some young teams before. Where does this one sort of fit in with sophomores and freshmen in terms of your two deep?
Defensively, it's one of the more inexperienced group, but it's probably one of the more athletic groups too. So there's a give and take there, from that perspective. I don't think, if I look at our offensive, group, I wouldn't consider them an inexperienced group. But I would say defensively, there's going to be, some times where we're going to be gnashing our teeth a little bit, but they're very athletic, and that's okay when you know that you've got some really good athletes over there.
Lastly, just a kind of schematic question. The zone read or read option is something everybody does. You guys just haven't really had the personnel to do it until maybe now.
Yeah.
What does it take to be good in that element of the game? And just, big picture that, I guess the benefits are obvious, but could you speak to that?
Well, I think it's like anything else, Pete. I think it's a commitment. You have to commit to putting your quarterback out there. And then I think there's some schematic things that you have to do with your offensive line. If you're a team that likes to gap block, if you want to block down and pull, and you're committed to those types of things, and then when you get into some zone read option, you're doing some different things with your offensive line that you have to spend time on. So it's a give-take kind of relationship when it comes to zone read option. So first of all, you've got to be willing to put your quarterback out there, and that means, the potential that, he's going to get hit. And number two, there's a give-take as it relates to the time that you spend with schemes within the offensive line. We're committed to it. We're going to run it, and it'll be part of what we do offensively.
Have you ever really been committed to it?
Oh, yeah.
In the past?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Coach, in terms of Jerron Jones, just the size, it's not the prototypical thing for an inside guy on the defensive line. How does he navigate, or how does he make up for being such a big target inside? He's 6'6". Most guys are, around 6'2". How does that fit into his game?
Well, I don't know that I think he's becoming more of the, typical inside guy. They're just so much bigger now. They're ranging in that 6'4" to 6'6" range. Richard Seymour back in his day was atypical of a 6'5" inside guy. They're becoming a much more common player. But specifically, he's got to do a great job with his pad level, obviously. He's got to do a great job with his leverage. And so that means, he's got to be compact. He's got to stay low, which he certainly can bend. If you can't bend at that position, then 6'6" is 6'6", whether he plays at that position or he's a defensive end and he stands up every play. Jerron Jones has the flexibility. So when we're recruiting a player that may be 6'4", 6'5", and may seem a little bit big for that position, if he can bend and he's flexible, the 2-3 inches really doesn't make a difference. So his ability to bend, his athletic ability really doesn't put him at a disadvantage at that position. Where he's at is work volume and his ability to stay on the field for multiple plays. So that's really where the biggest jump will be for him this year.
Brian, I may be reading too much into the depth chart that Mike made out here, but I see that
They're
Sheldon.
both going to play quite a bit. It's 1A and 1B.
No, that's not-
I was just giving Mike a hard time.
That's not my question. I see Sheldon Day and Okwara listed on the outside of Jones and Rochelle. Have you flip-flop, have you moved Rochelle inside and Day outside?
No.
You haven't?
I didn't see that.
They're all listed as DL, so I didn't know, but they were on the outside of the other two.
No, you'll see Sheldon Day, Jerron Jones inside. You'll see Rochelle, Blankenship. You'll see Romeo and Trombetti on the outside.
We've heard that Corey Robinson had a thumb issue. Did he actually have surgery? He is listed on the depth chart as a starter.
He did. He had a fracture. He had a pin placed in there on, let's see, Friday. And he was back at practice yesterday catching the football. So he is a go for Saturday.
Okay. We're going to have an opportunity to talk to Cody Riggs again this week. I was just wondering if you could relate the experience of when you found out that he was interested in coming to Notre Dame, how you found out, what your reaction was.
There was a
et cetera.
pre-existing relationship there through his recruitment coming out of high school and a relative that went here to Notre Dame, and then an association with Coach Alford. So that was the pre-existing relationship that was already there. So there was a foundation of knowledge with Notre Dame, and then, of course, our academic program that he had a keen interest in. All those things aligned themselves first and foremost. And then the easy part was finding somebody with the kind of experience he did playing in the SEC. I think the final piece is what a great kid he is. Hard worker, great with the players, professional, goes to class, works hard, comes to practice, and is ready to go every day. He's just been, one of those great kids that you find, once in a while that's worked out so well for us.
You mentioned that you've had zero feedback on the 4 players this week, and we heard a couple weeks ago that you found out the day before the university announced the investigation. When you signed your contract extension, you indicated at the time that it was important for you to have a seat at the table.
Yeah.
In light of the timing of these things that we're hearing, do you feel like you have a seat at that table now?
Yeah, I did not feel in this instance that I was at any time left out of the loop, felt as though I was blindsided, by a long investigation. I think the information that was ascertained in this matter was pretty straightforward. It was quick, and once they were able to kind of confirm the information, Jack let me know. So at no time did I feel that, and I think you guys know me pretty good. If I feel like I didn't get the information necessary, I usually let it be known, but not in this matter at all did I feel that way.
So have you felt all along that you weren't going to have these 4 for the first game, or have you just been kind of waiting to get the indication whether you would or wouldn't?
I know that when we go through an academic process like this, that involves our honor code, that this is a process that's out of my hands. I've been through one already with Everett, so I know the workings of it, and it does me no good to put a timetable on it. It does me no good to think about what day. I've moved on, and the process will take care of itself, just by my experience in dealing with it before.
And, I mean, have you addressed this with the team? Do you feel the need to discuss their situation with them?
No,
Do you-
we addressed it when it happened. Our players know fully about the honor code. They know the expectations surrounding it, and it really has not been an issue for a moment with our football team, other than they care about their teammates, you know? They care about what happens to them. But other than that, they know the expectations that are placed on them here. They know the honor code. They know the responsibilities that fall on them. So it has not been something that they have brought to my attention, nor to our Unity Council, to anybody that's within our program. They've moved on as well.
Thank you.
Yep.
Brian, you're talking about youth. Who are the freshmen that you think you're going to have, major contributions from this season?
Well, when you say freshmen, I include guys that redshirted too, that didn't play last year. So there's a number of those guys as well that are going to have to, play roles for us and play, significant roles for us. But true freshmen, Andrew Trembetti, there's a guy that's going to be on the edge of our defense that's going to play a lot of football for us, and we're going to have to count on him to play very well for us. If you're talking about, from a defensive standpoint, there's guys on third down that are going to play and have roles for us. Johnny Williams is going to play on third down for us. I think, if you look, Devin Butler is going to have to play. He didn't play for us last year. He's just going to get his first playing experience for us as a freshman cornerback. Those guys in particular stand out as guys that are going to have to perform for us, in high-profile positions on the defensive side of the ball. Greer Martini, Niles Morgan, those guys are going to have to play roles for us. Grant Blankenship is another freshman that's probably going to have to get in there and take some reps for us. So there's 5 freshmen right there that'll have to play some form of winning football for us immediately for us to have the kind of success that we want defensively.
And you mentioned that, there'll be a national teacher, just the concern there'll be. Is there anything you can do to kind of ease that, or is it just you have to?
Score a lot of points. Score a lot of points. That will ease everybody's concern.
And is one of the biggest concern defense just staying healthy? Because if you look at the list you have here, almost a good number of the number 2s have the freshman tag.
Yeah. Well, certainly there are key positions, right? Inside, Sheldon Day is a key player for us. Jerron Jones is a key player for us. Jalen Smith's an absolutely key player. I could go down the list. There are key players. And we know we're going to have injuries along the way. That's why this is going to be, an evolving situation with some young guys going to have to play some prominent roles and grow up during the season. But we know what we got, and we're ready and excited about watching them play.
Last one for me. Lots of made about Joe Schmidt, coming from walk-on to starter. Is that something that you can use in recruiting as a point to somebody, that maybe you're hoping to get some walk-ons to come in, say, that it's not just Rudy, there are people that come in and be, contributors here at Notre Dame?
I think our walk-on program has proven that you'll be rewarded with a scholarship. We just awarded 3 more scholarships this past weekend. I awarded scholarships last year to walk-ons. So every year since I've been here, we've awarded a scholarship to a walk-on. I did that at the other stops along the way. I really think it builds a credibility to your walk-on program that they do, in fact, are respected for the work they do and have a chance to earn a scholarship. So it's very important to us. After the 85 scholarships, those next 20 players are very important to your depth and how things pan out during the season. So I think it really gives it a shot of credibility when you're able to award scholarships in the walk-on program to deserving players.
Coach, over to your left. With Matthias Farley, now that he's gone through summer, switching positions, how has that transition gone for him? And given that you don't know Kavare's status, how important is he going to be to the defense this year?
Well, you know, he can do a number of things for us. He's playing nickel, corner, safety. He's a guy that can do a little bit of everything. He's very smart. But we also don't want to put him in a position where, you know, we put him out there on an island every snap as well, you know. So he's a good football player. He's a great teammate. He's a great leader on our team. And he's a guy right now that is invaluable in a sense that he can do a little bit at 3 different positions for us right now.
Coach, if Jack comes to you tomorrow or next Wednesday and says, hey, 2 of the 4 have been cleared, they're good to go, is that enough time for them to get back in, practice, meetings, to be ready for that week's game, or is that going to be an issue potentially moving forward as well?
It's hard to say. I mean, we'd have to see what they've been doing. I'm sure that the young men have not just been sitting on the couch. I'm sure they're out conditioning and staying in shape. But, you know, hypothetically, I would say that, you know, that's a doable situation, but we'll have to see.
We haven't asked you about Rice. What is it about them this year that makes them a tough opponent? Obviously, we know what they did last year, but what is it in particular this year that could give you guys some trouble?
Well, they were very innovative offensively last year. I thought that what they did, and of course they've lost their offensive coordinator, but I thought that they were very difficult to defend offensively last year. Very creative. If you put too much emphasis in stopping their run game, they had Taylor, the receiver was outstanding. So they had really good balance offensively. I thought they just were well coached from an offensive standpoint. I really liked their scheme and what they were trying to accomplish, and very stingy defensively, extremely stingy. They were really good at stopping the run. Now, they were very aggressive in dropping guys down on the line of scrimmage and forcing you to throw the ball down the field. They played a lot of man coverage. They had 2 very good corners last year, one that I think was a 3rd-round draft pick, and of course they got Callahan back. So they were very blessed to have 2 very good lock-on corners. So they were very stingy on defense as well.
Brian, I want to ask you about Ben Koyak. He seems like all of a sudden, especially in light of losing Tavares, he's kind of probably your most experienced guy in the pass-catching game at this point. How has his role changed, and how do you expect him to be a part of the offense? For
me, the tight end's always been central to the offensive structure in that, you know, he patrols, you know, a pretty important part of the, you know, the middle of the field for us is somewhere where the tight end can do a lot of work. You know, Ben can get down the middle of the field. And, you know, teams that love to be in, you know, a Tampa 2 structure and put a tight end with a Mike linebacker or really play a wide cover 2, your tight end now can do business for you down the middle of the field. Ben has that ability, you know, to get down the middle of the field. So anytime you have a tight end that can get down the middle of the field, he becomes a weapon for you. Ben's always had that. He's had to wait for his chance to do that, and he'll get that chance this year.
He talked a little bit this spring about the comfort level improving toward the end of last season with getting out there and getting a little bit more involved. Have you seen that him continue to get more comfortable making plays and being that guy as camp's gone on?
Yeah, and I think he's, you know, for him, getting more time in the passing game. You know, he was always, all right, put Ben in. He's the run guy. You know, Troy can run down the field, and, you know, Eifert can run down the field. You know, Koyak's the backside of the tight end. You know, he's going to be the run blocking guy. Now he's getting all that work in 7-on-7, and he's really, you know, it's really polished his game as a pass receiver. So I look for him to really benefit from a lot of the work that he's gotten as that pass catcher.
And I've got a special teams questions for you because I know you love those. I think we saw the the kickoff team on Saturday when we had a chance to look at practice, and it looked like maybe 2 or 3 of your running backs and more starters were out there with that first group, and I don't know if that's indicative of what will be there Saturday, but has that, and you talked about changing the personnel there, but have you balanced sort of getting those guys in on kickoff coverage with having starters there, and how have you worked with that?
Yeah, we feel like we've got the right players. I think I've mentioned this a couple of times on questions that have been asked, is that, getting the right players on that team. We didn't believe it was a scheme issue as much as it was getting the right players on that team and the right speed element. We think we've got the right speed element on that team and the right players. And we believe that there's going to be some guys that are starters at other positions that are going to need to be on that team as well.
Brian, what's allowed Justin Brent to earn a spot in the 2 deep?
I think, he's got some physical traits, probably more than that he's ready. I think Torrey Hunter will probably take that spot for him when he's back. He's kind of keeping that seat warm for him right now, but he's got physical traits, and you can put him in a game, and even though he doesn't have full knowledge of all the intricacies of being a great receiver yet, he's learning. Because of his skill set and his size, he's not going to hurt you out there. But he's got a ways to go. He's a freshman, but he's bigger. He's a physical presence. But I would say that him and Corey Holmes, are both kids that are going to be dynamite players for us. It's just too early to have them out there, both of them.
We saw, I think it was after the first practice, he was the last guy on the field catching balls from the jugs gun. Is that pretty indicative of his work ethic?
He's got a great work ethic. Great work ethic. And that's part of the reason, maybe that's a better way to answer the question, is that you can't get into the 2 deep if you're lazy. You can't get into the 2 deep if you don't have a work ethic. You can't get into 2 deep if you don't care, right? He's got all that. He's just not ready to be the guy that, for example, in the 2 deep, it's Amir Carlisle and C.J. Prosise. That's a different 2 deep than where he is at this point.
Another receiver, Chris Brown, earned a lot of early praise from you in camp. Has he carried that through, and what are you hoping to see from him this season?
Well, he's got to make big plays for us. That's what he has to do for us. He's, when he gets the opportunity to catch the football, he's got to make big plays for us. He's going to get open. He's got great speed. He plays physical. He's going to get off press coverage. He's just going to finish plays. That's the next step for Chris Brown, finish plays.
And then in terms of speed of the offense in general, are there ways that you'll specifically evaluate in terms of number of plays run or amount of time between plays, or how will you judge that you're going at the pace you want to?
Everything is based upon the game itself, how the game looks to me, and that has a lot of factors, right? Their defense, what it looks like during the game. Are we in a situation where we need to maximize our possessions, and then what we're capable of doing, So from week to week, that's going to the factors. Now, having said that, we've gone into this year knowing that we're going to run more plays than we did in the past. So there's a different bar than what we've had in the past.
Brian, down the middle here. Everett mentioned it's been 600 days since his last game. Given that long layoff, does that change any expectations for what you want to see out of him against Rice?
Expectations? No, I don't think so, but we need to be cognizant of that fact, that this will be his first game since, playing against Alabama. So we need to get him into the game. Probably you hear this from everybody, but, let's have some success early on with him and get him into the flow of the game. And I think once he starts to get comfortable back playing the game at fast pace, then we just call the game like we normally would. But I think we need to get him off to a good start.
And with so many young guys on the depth chart, does that change how you have to prepare for a game, or is that just part of the learning curve for these guys?
There's a little bit of both. I mean, I think that, you know, you're always teaching to the level that you know, allows you to be successful. You can't say, oh, we just have a bunch of young guys. We have to be basic. You know, they've got to catch up to us. But we have to be cognizant of what we have out there too. So I think it's probably a little bit of both.
Just wanted to follow up on JJ's question real quick. Did you take the red jersey off Everett at all? He hasn't been tackled in 600 days. Have you kind of do anything physical with him to get him prepared for that?
No, he'll keep that red jersey on. And, you know, we feel like, you know, when it comes to the quarterback and how we're teaching him on, you know, our option plays and such, that he's got a pretty good idea of you know, what we expect from him in terms of taking on contact.
We've talked a lot this preseason about maybe the different pace on offense, but there's also been so much about the defensive substitution patterns that you will have a lot of specialists. If an opposing offense is running tempo, what are the dynamics involved in being able to get your defensive players?
Can't get them on the field. They don't get on the field. They don't get on the field.
Just go with what you have?
Yeah, you'll just have to play with the players that are on the field, and obviously you're getting him in and out on incompletions. You're getting him in and out. You know, when the ball's out of bounds, you're getting him in and out when you obviously can get that opportunity. But if the ball is in play and they're spotting it, you know, 8 to 10 seconds is generally the speed that most crews can get that ball spotted back if it stays in the field of play. It's pretty hard to get your guys in and out. You know, hopefully you're by your bench and maybe you can, you know, that's why we need to stay, you know, right and left and, you know, keep it in that fashion so we can get guys in and out in a faster substitution pattern. But yeah, if you're clicking and you're moving the ball effectively, it's hard to get your sub packages in there.
Same with you on offense. Do you see like an individual who starts the game, if you're driving at a fast pace, again, they will probably take the majority of snaps as opposed to recent years where you had quite a bit of substitution? Yeah,
we won't have quite a bit. We won't have the multiple substitutions if we're moving the ball in a faster tempo. We won't have the kind of substitutions that we've had over the last couple of years.
Okay. Matt Hegarty won the left guard job. Do you still see a rotation there with maybe him and Hanratty? Or
I think Matt's won it, but I think you'll see Hanratty playing as well, absolutely.
And most of the preseason noticed Quentin Nelson as the number 2 right tackle. And
I think you're going to see Mike McGlinchey will be the first tackle in.
Okay, and Hunter's moved back out to tackle also?
He's playing both guard and tackle. Guard and tackle. Yeah, we've cross-trained him to, to really play the inside position, and we've given him both guard and tackle work. So we feel comfortable with him both at guard and tackle.
Okay, and just one more on, as far as with the receiving core, you've always had somebody each year. It was Tyler succeeding Michael and TJ succeeding Tyler and all. Without Tavares right now, there isn't that one guy who's had already 70, 80 career catches. Chris Brown has the most with 17. Is that a huge role for him to just suddenly be thrust into that one receiver role, or do you have others?
Yeah, I wouldn't look towards Chris Brown as being the only guy. I think you're going to see C.J. Prosise catch a lot of balls. I think you're seeing Amir Carlisle is going to catch a lot of balls. I think you'll see a different dynamic with this offense, is that you're going to see 4 or 5, 6 guys. The running backs will be much more involved in catching the ball as well. So that's going to really show itself across the board more so than one featured guy. You're going to see just a lot more catches across the board with a number of receivers.
Thank you.
All right, let's see if we have any questions from the callers.
We'll go to our first question from Dan Chalk from Midland Daily News.
Hi, Coach. Can you talk about Steve Elmer's transition to right tackle this year and what you expect from him this season?
Well, Steve is obviously an incredible story here, and that, you know, playing as a true freshman is such a difficult role in itself. I mean, just to play as a true freshman in college football, but to play on the offensive line here at Notre Dame just requires so much physical ability and the mental end of things. Now we move him over to a tackle position, which is now no small feat in itself, that you've got to adjust probably as much as any position where we flipped aside. Now we put him on the right side at right tackle. His techniques are so different. So he's made a really good transition. I think there's work to be done there. You know, this will continue to evolve during the season, but we couldn't be more proud of the work that he's done, the extra work that he's done to come in here after just being here 2 years now and nail down 2 starting positions at 2 different positions on the offensive line.
And can you talk about just a little about the intangibles that he brings in terms of character and leadership?
Well, I think it starts with his ability to, you know, first of all, handle all the demands that are placed on him as a student and both an offensive lineman that's played both guard and tackle. There's a lot going on there, and you've got to have incredible mental toughness, and you've got to be very bright. He's a very smart kid that can translate what he is taught in the classroom to the football field. And that's not an easy chore. You can be really smart in the classroom but have a hard time translating it. So he does a great job, and it certainly represents us in such a positive way as a great student and a great kid.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
You're welcome.